I was digging deep into addiction, into drama, into suffering, into victim. I was really digging as deep as I could. And one day when I started really to dig down, and I was just like, there is nowhere lower I could go in my head. And I said, well, the light that I'm looking for is on the other side.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say it took me a lot of time before being with the confidence of talking about all of this. It took me a lot of time, but I did it, every day. Like so many times I was like healing and transforming and then wondering, when will it stop? When the suffering will it stop?
Today's guest is Asha Hope. Born and raised in Brussels, Asha's life has been a roller coaster of challenges and triumphs. Despite facing ADHD and after being expelled from his first school for his behavior, he graduated with distinctions and won awards for his exceptional writing. Asha has overcome sexual abuse, drug addiction, criminal past, mental disability, victim of bullying. Asha's personal growth skyrocketed during his time in India, where he delved into deep meditation and trauma release. During this time, the codes of the fabrics of the universe and the ways we can access our creative power has been revealed to him. His focus shifted to helping others overcome their traumas and unlocking their superhuman potential. Welcome, Asha.
Thank you.
So, reading out that, I am so excited for this interview. It's a pleasure having you on the show. So, what is one of the most courageous things you have done, if you could possibly pick one?
Well, one of the most courageous thing that I did and that most of people can do is really to take a responsibility for your own life and realize that no matter what you've been told for most of your life, that you can't do this, you can't do that, that if you do that, karma will pay back, that if you do that, the government will go after you. It's really to find within yourself the desire to explore life, because I do believe that the life you're living here is a blank canvas for you to explore. I don't believe that time is a one line that goes from there to there. I think that time is more as a space, and we can roam in all the direction we want. We don't have to follow a path that is predetermined by society, but we really can be creative and say, hey, I don't want to do that. I prefer taking more time to explore this and that. And I think in today's society, you can be a hero if you decide to just stop doing like everyone else does and just ask yourself, what would make me the most happiest person in the world? And that
Absolutely.
is, I think, one of the most courageous thing I would love to see people do, rather than trying to jump from one building to the other or driving super fast in a motorbike or whatever. These are very nice things. These are giving you a lot of adrenaline. But I don't think that's really the definition of courage. I think really the definition of courage is to do things that people are not expecting you to do.
Absolutely. I love that. I love it all. Asha, tell me about your time from being expelled from your first school, about your behavior. What was going on for you at that time?
Well, that was that was a very interesting time. It was because when I was younger, I got bullied at school, and I really easily got the label of the poor kid who cannot defend himself and who is a very easy target. And as it was going on, at one point in my life, when I started to become a teenager, I realized that I didn't want to be the victim of a bully anymore. I just wanted to have a different life. I wanted to be more popular, to be loved for who I am.
Mhm.
And I started looking around myself, and I started looking at the popular kids, and I realized that the popular kids were the one who were resisting the teachers. They were the one who were answering to the teachers. They were the one who were not beat. They were being late at school. They were smoking and doing all the things that we find being rebellious when we were a teenager or kids. And in order to just really kind of like find some popularity and protect myself from being bullied, I decided I would become the most popular kid I could, which literally led me to do all the things that the teachers would prevent, or my parents would, whatever it was forbidden, I would do it.
Yes.
And it did work. It did bring me some popularity. But on the flip side, I kind of like failed a lot at school because, like failing and being rebellious when you're a teenager is kind of like the same thing.
Yes.
Today, I understand that being rebellious doesn't have to be with the label of being a bad kid or a bad student. But at the time, I didn't have a broad perspective, and I was just like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So I did that for as much as I could until, well, I got expelled because I was in a very serious school. We had a uniform we had to wear. There was like a lot of rules, and that got me to be in a more loose school where I got more accepted.
Wow. So, how did you manage to navigate the traumas in your life? Because you've had a lot of traumas.
Yeah. Yeah, that is right. I do believe that most people here on Earth have a lot of traumas, even though they
Mm-hmm.
don't know, because we live in a society that is really like eyes shut towards your emotional balance. So many people
Mm-hmm.
are living in their traumas. The way I did was like most people, I started coping with drugs. When I was about 15, I discovered ecstasy, and it was the first time I had drugs, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I wish everybody could have it. And that wish kind of like became true because for more than 10 years I started selling drugs, to the extent that where I had 8 people working for me, and it was really like
Wow.
a very nice enterprise, making me a lot of money and also giving me a lot of free time. And it was also going along the way of my desire of being rebellious and popular. And that wasn't the best way to do it. I do believe that to some extent, the use of some drugs can help, but I would say you need to do that with the support of a therapist. I've heard that some countries are allowing therapists to use psilocybin or marijuana in order to help trauma. But if you want to do that, I would recommend to do it with some specialist around yourself. But the thing that really came to my life was meditation, hypnosis, and the use of the breath. To which later on, I really understood that doing trauma release really works when we add the body, because the mind is where everything kind of like happens. If you want to do
Mm-hmm.
something, you're like, oh, I want to have a glass of water, I'm gonna think about it, and then I'm gonna go get my glass of water in the fridge. But then the body is where everything is truly like happening in the action world. So first you need to start healing the mind and the emotional body with meditation. That's very good thing, or hypnosis, or whatever works for you. You can do tapping, EFT. It's a very nice thing where you tap on different part of the body, and that will activate some emotion. So when you've done that, I would recommend to do some yoga or sport, whatever brings you into movement, because the body is reacting to what's happening in your mind. And the
Mm.
first thing you need to do to stop suffering is stop sending the signal of pain. So most
Mm.
people, it's about 7 adults on 10 are suffering from chronic back pain. And if they have chronic back pain, it's very simple. It's because the brain is sending a signal to create tension in the body. The same way when you are lifting weights, the muscles are going to tense and you're going to be able to lift the weight because you consciously send a signal to the muscle, lift the weight. And when you have these tensions in your body that are chronic, that are coming back, it's because something was so scary that your brain is constantly sending the message, be
Mm.
tense because something's gonna happen. We don't know when, we don't know how, but something's gonna happen. That because something did happen and you didn't know how to react to it. So you just decided, I'm gonna be on alert mode all the time. So if it's happening, I'm there. But the
Yes.
downside of that, if being on alert all the time, is just draining your energy. So stop sending that signal to the muscle. And then you need to massage the muscle because the muscle has been tense for so long in the same position that the muscle is used to be that. We talk about muscle memory, And the
Yes.
body language is muscle memory. Like people who are like always like the shoulders going tense, we can see them when you walk in the street, you can clearly see if someone is
Mhm.
relaxed or not. And the body is so used to be unease that you need to work with it. So first, find a way to connect with the thoughts and change them. And then just go physical. If you like running, if you like whatever works for you, actually, because you don't have to do yoga to just be more flexible. You can do whatever exercise that works for you. You can be dancing. It works a lot.
Yeah, that's brilliant. That was one of my questions actually that you've just answered. What insights can you offer to navigate emotional healing?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you for that. What was your turning point, pivotal moment for you to change your life?
Well, um, there were a few, but the most important one was a morning because after 10 years of taking drugs, I really got addicted to several of them. And I started consuming them on a daily basis, like all the
Mhm.
time. And I would wake up around 2 p.m. on a daily basis. And I would start my day with a line of cocaine. And I remember that day still. I woke up, the shutters of the windows were still closed and was still like kind of dark. It was just enough light for me to see and to make a line of cocaine. And so I did that line of cocaine. I snorted it and I started crying. And then I knew that something was off. I could not keep on doing that. I was just
Mhm.
really like exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. All the parts of me were just saying, no, this solution worked for the first year, but the 9 years that followed, it didn't work because you had to take more of it. And so I was crying and I called and I was so destroyed that I could not, I was scared of asking for help. So I called one friend to ask him to ask for other friends to help me. And that was the best thing I could do. And I do believe, and I read this quote not long ago, is just ask for as much as help as you can. And that's the best thing you can do, is asking for as much as you can in your life, and that's gonna pivot your life. So that morning happened, and I spent a few days with my friend, and then I met a psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist told me, well, you're not a junkie, you have ADHD, and we have prescription drugs for you. And that just cut me off, and I was just like, wait a minute, I have a drug problem here. And you're proposing me to replace the drugs that I'm using with another one that just gonna make me dull and just make me functional. Because
Mhm,
I
mhm.
would say cocaine is fun, it makes you feel stuff, it makes you like feel invincible. But the drug they're prescribing me is just like, it would just make me like a robot. And I was just like, no, this is not happening. The problem I have is that I'm taking chemicals that makes me feel bad.
Mhm.
It's not that I have a wrong label. And okay, clearly having a new label is helping. Knowing that I'm not a junkie, that's not like a life sentence, that's not my destiny to be a drug addict, felt good. But then the idea of like, you have a disease that we only treat with a drug was not the thing with me. And then I just decided to find something else. And that other thing that I found was meditation. And I remember at the time, I've seen this video with a monk saying that if you don't have 2 minutes a day for meditation, you should meditate 20 minutes a day.
I like
And
that.
at the time, for me, being seated with my eyes closed without consuming anything, I mean, at the time I was still drinking a lot of coffee, was impossible. And today, I'm meditating on average 1 hour every morning. And I'm also just really trying to make the time for a second hour of meditation on the evening, because I realize that it gives me so much more time in my day when I meditate in the morning. It's literally allowing me to order everything that's happening within myself,
Brilliant.
because every day there is a ton of things that are happening, a lot of stimulation, from the messages you can have on your phone, listening to a podcast with a lot of information, the people you see in the street, the food that you eat, the
Mhm.
movement that you do, everything you do is information. And I see meditation, your brain more like a library. Your brain is like a library, and there's a lot of books, and everything you do is someone bringing a book on the counter. And so you have this pile of books that you received every day. And when you meditate, it's like you take all of these books and order them in the library. And so you know what it is. And when you don't meditate, you have this pile of book and you don't know what is the information. And so you always kind of lost, like, I don't know what to do. And you become clumsy and you just do things 3 times because you don't know. But when you start meditating, you start knowing yourself. You start knowing the impact of the food. You start knowing the impact of the sport. You start knowing the impact of everything you do on your body and on your life. And you're like, oh, I clearly know that that much of sport is good for me. I know that I can run 10 minutes without sweating in the summer here in Belgium. I know that I can do 30 minutes of yoga. I know that I can sit for 1 hour. I know that I can eat that kind of food. I know how much sugar I can eat, because, for
Mhm.
example, a lot of people are saying, no, sugar is bad, this food is bad, that food is bad.
Mhm.
It is to a certain extent for
Yes.
the majority of the people. But if sugar exists, there is a reason, because it gives you some pleasure, it gives you something. So knowing how much of something you can eat and relying on your own knowledge gives you a sense of power and control, rather than thinking, oh, I'm gonna follow these rules
Mhm.
and sacrifice my pleasure because this guy on social media said you should not do this or you should not that. You know that there is a certain extent it's gonna be unhealthy, but you don't have to sacrifice your pleasure for that in that sense. And the more you know yourself, the more knowledgeable you are, because clearly all knowledge is knowledge of self. Whatever you learn becomes you, right? If you learn to cook, you become a cook somehow.
Mhm.
If you learn to write, you become a writer. And the more you know yourself, the more you know what are the skills that you can apply, and you can share them and you can explain them. So meditating, I'm going to insist on that. It's such an important thing to feel good, but also to be knowledgeable and have like a lot of value to provide for others.
That's brilliant. Absolutely. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's knowing yourself and what works for your body. Absolutely. That's brilliant. So, Asha, what led you to India and start your personal growth?
Well, that is something that many people might not understand if they didn't have what we call a spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
It's literally I was guided there.
Hmm.
There is nothing else that I can say that it was pure magic. And it was a series of unrelated events that really brought me to be there in this ashram. The first thing is that after like deciding I would quit, I started traveling in Latin America, and I did a few countries there for 1.5 year. And I realized that the problems I was running away from were everywhere.
Yeah.
And I had this image in my mind that Brazil was this beautiful country where people are
Hmm.
dancing in the streets with this, so much love, and it's happy and joyful. And I arrived there, and I see these big cities full of desperate people, full of people who are running for their job and taking drugs, and I was just, oh my god, I thought I would arrive in this beautiful Brazil country, that was just having some ideas that were false. And I came back to Europe, and I was like, okay, something is wrong, this is not there. I want to be part of the change, but I wasn't ready yet to be able to carry the weight of other people at the time. I was still very weak emotionally and mentally. And as I was in Belgium again, in this very apartment I am in right now, I was wondering what was the best thing that happened during the time. And I was remembering this guy who was building in bamboo. And I felt like I want to learn how to build with bamboo, because I think that if people live in bamboo construction, they will be closer to nature and they will feel better. And
Absolutely.
so I booked flights and a training on how to become a bamboo architect, which was happening in Bali.
Hmm.
And somehow, after booking and paying for everything for that training of bamboo construction, there was this voice in my head that was like, you have to go to India. And then I was like, okay. So I went to Skyscanner and I checked the cheapest flight for India. And it was for New Delhi. It was like $250, something like that. I was like, okay, you know what? Tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to buy the cheapest flight because right now I don't feel like doing it. It's too late. So I closed my laptop, woke up the next day, opened my laptop, and I just go back to Skyscanner asking the cheapest flight for India, and it's Mumbai. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know why. I just wanted to go to India. I've never been there, and I've been traveling for 1.5 years. It is gonna be a good experience anyway. And I'm just packing everything.
Mhm.
I'm going to the airport, and I'm arriving in India. And a friend of mine gave me this book on PDF, which was The Art of Tantra, because I've been through very like unhealthy a sexual
Mhm.
relationship in my life, so I felt like I had to do something.
Mhm.
And today I understood that tantra is not just about that, it's really more about connection. But anyway, I was reading that book on PDF. It was called Tantra for stupid people or something like that. And I'm reading that book and I'm traveling in India, and I wanted to be off the traditional touristic path. I wanted to
Yeah.
just meet India for what it was.
Mhm.
And I was kind of like disappointed because it was super polluted, like it was a
Mhm.
lot of pollution from the cars, from the trucks, but also the countryside was just full of plastic, and like there was a lot of industrial construction. And I was like, oh, this is very, very sad. And my dad was also very sick at the moment. And then I'm in this reading this book, and where I am in this book is written. I learn every The author is writing. I learn everything I know in Osho International, Pune. And I'm like, wait, I know this name Pune. It just tells me something. And I'm looking at the map. It's 100 kilometers from where I am. And I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like doing tourism, and I want to learn more about this tantra thing. And I'm going to there. And I arrived there in this ashram in Pune. So for people who don't know what an ashram is a temple where people meditate. And I see these people. They are wearing uniform, these maroon robes, and you have to pay. It's very expensive. It's just like way more than what someone would make on average on a monthly basis. And you have to wake up at 5 in the morning to meditate. You have to
Mhm.
be like very there's a lot of discipline. It's I would say
Mhm.
it's even military discipline. You have to be very
Yes.
strict, clean your room, make your bed and everything. And I'm coming out of 10 years of like criminal activity where everything that's discipline is just foreign for me. Just I
Yes.
don't know what it is. I wake up when I want it. I do what I want.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at that, and somehow I'm like, you know what? I've been doing everything that wasn't me so far in order to become a better person. And that is the literal 100% opposite of who I am. I am black, this is white, I'm going fully. So I was just like, I want to try. I was kind of like still like, I'm gonna try for 2 days. And I entered this place with a pass for 2 days, and I meet this amazing woman, Ambu Deva. And she comes and she's like, I feel you have a special gift here, and you shouldn't just be staying here for 2 days. And she convinced
Mhm.
me to transform my pass of 2 days for a pass for 1 week. And I ultimately stayed 3 months in that
Wow.
ashram. The crazy thing is that I already had booked everything for going to the bamboo construction thing.
Yes.
And I just called the guys and say, you know what? I cannot come. I'm having the best time of my life. So yeah, I was literally guided to India because all the elements that
Mhm.
made me be there at that time were just a rather thin. It was just literally a matter of like 1 minute. If I had bought the plane ticket the day before, I would not have
Mhm.
been in that ashram. If I wouldn't have received that book from my friend, I would not have that.
Mhm.
If my dad was not sick, I would not have wanted to go into a city. And all the little elements just clung into one place at the one time and be like, hey, you have to go there. And I went there and I discovered the world of meditation. Truly, I discovered the world of spirituality because the 2 years before, when I had my spiritual awakening and I stopped taking drugs on a daily basis, I started feeling energies, sensing energies, having like voices coming to me, like messages, intuition.
Mhm.
And I thought I was crazy because I didn't know anyone who had that. And before that in my
Mm.
life, this was labeled as crazy.
Absolutely.
And then I'm seeing that there is a huge community, because that ashram is just like having thousands of people every day. It's just like
Mm.
there's like uh, at least 2,000 people sleeping there, but there's like thousands of other people who live in the city who come there. And I'm just
Mm.
like, I'm not crazy. If there's as much people that do believe in the same thing as me, and not just that they do believe in that, their life is way better.
Mhm.
These are people who are not being the drama kings. They're not the drama king. These are people who have a healthy lifestyle, who have a healthy business, who have a family where there is connection. All the things that you think,
Absolutely.
oh,
Mm.
the dream life that I want to
Mm.
have, these people have it. Of
Mhm.
course, there are some things that are not perfect. There are some things that you need to change, because that's also the game. If everything was just perfect from the get-go, there would not be fun into improving yourself. But when you look at them and you look at where I was before, I'm like, clearly I would trade my life with theirs so easily,
Mm.
just for the level of comfort they have in the material world. And that really just gave me hope.
Mm.
And you might see that my name is Asha Hope, and actually that name I received it there because my
Mhm.
birth name is Sebastian Collet. But when I was there after 2 months, someone came to me and they say, hey, we're doing a rebirth ceremony tomorrow, and you're gonna be given a new name. And I was like, oh yeah, I feel like doing that. I feel like starting a new page in my life. And the name of Asha, which means hope, was given to me.
Mm.
And I feel like this is what I want to bring to people. I want to bring hope to people, because I was digging deep into addiction, into drama, into suffering, into victim. I was really digging as deep as I could.
Mm.
And one day when I started really to dig down, and then was just like, there is nowhere lower I could go, you know. I
Yeah.
turned my head and I
Mm.
saw, well, the light that I'm looking for is on the other side. And
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say it took me a lot of time before being with the confidence of talking about all of this. It took me a
Mhm.
lot of time, but I did it. Every day. Like
Mhm.
so many times, I was like healing and transforming, and then wondering, when will it stop? When the suffering will it stop? What I can say one thing: suffering might never stop, but you will probably become so resilient that it's becoming part of life, like the rain. When it's raining, maybe if it's raining for 1 week, you just like, when is the rain gonna stop? But at one point, you have built a house around yourself, and it might be raining, and it's okay because you're not wet.
Mhm.
So that is the thing that I want to say. There's gonna be pain, there's gonna be suffering in the world all the time, because we live in a binary world, in the sense of there are two opposites, and in between the opposites there is variance, and there's graduality, but there is dark and light. Dark, we could say, is the pain. Light is the good. We could say fear and love. And in between there is a graduation of different emotions. And clearly, pain, fear is there to tell you what is not working,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
love, happiness, pleasure is telling you what is working. And I have a very simple example. You probably have found some food one day that was so good, and you started eating that. It's like, oh my God, this thing is so good. I love it. I could eat 5 kilo of it.
Yes.
And then you didn't even have eaten 1 kilo of it. You're full. Your sugar level is so high you don't feel good anymore. And that is the very simple way to understand that pain and pleasure are just one step away from each other.
Absolutely.
And as I mentioned before, knowing yourself is knowing how to stay on that fine edge between the pain and between the pleasure, saying, hey, this is enough. I am enough. I deserve to be enough and to feel enough. And that's all. And that's the most important thing you have to do in your life is to understand what is enough for you. It's going to be different for everybody, you know. Like right now, I'm just wearing a very thin sweater, and I can see you, Anita. You have more layers on yourself, you know. So I'm feeling enough with that because it's hot enough for me here, and you are different. So what is enough for you, that's how you're gonna find the master key for your life. You know, that's how you're gonna find happiness in every moment, because clearly you're not gonna have everything, but when you have enough of what you need, life just become more simple. You're not stressing over, oh, I'm not gonna have food tomorrow, I'm not gonna have this. I have enough today, and
Absolutely.
that's all.
Yeah, less is more. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's very paramount to self forgive and heal. Can you tell me more? So I know you've just, like we've just spoke now, but it's paramount to self forgive and heal. Can you tell
Yeah.
me more from your personal experience, Asha?
Yes. Yes. Well, one thing that I noticed during my healing journey, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason that I was stuck for a long time, and that is something that is built in into us human,
Mm-hmm.
is when we were kids, and it really comes back from when we were living in the as tribe people in the savannah, and there were like dangers, like there was very surrounding us. As a kid, we have to look up to our parents to know when we're safe and when we can
Mm-hmm.
heal. So in the very simple example of hunter gatherers, we would be gathering food, and there would be a lion, and your parent would take you in your arms, you start running, and you would feel the stress and the rush. And when the parent would judge that you're in a safe place, you would naturally heal. And so we humans in the cities, we don't have the same kind of factors of stress and danger. The danger is the teacher, your boss, whatever, telling you you did something wrong, and you feel that stress. And so we never have really that moment where we know we're safe and we can heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
that's a moment where we need to accept that we need to decide when we're in a safe place and actually take the time to let go. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just deciding that today for 2 hours, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to journal, I'm going to shake my body. That's the moment you're being compassionate. You decided that in this moment, you deserve to stop carrying that weight, and that you're making an act of self love. And I would say another thing, if you're listening to this podcast, the
Mm-hmm.
decision you made to be looking for answer or looking for people who are doing that, who are a bit further than you on the way or are the same place as you on the way, you are making an act of self-love and compassion. You're just like, I want to know how it works. And
Mm-hmm.
when you know how it works, you can apply it. And if you
Absolutely.
remember it, you can apply it on a daily basis. So self-compassion is something that you are worthy of. It's something that you have the right to do at any time, because you can judge if a situation is safe enough for you to let go of your trauma. And if you have a house, if you have a place where you can have some intimate time with yourself, you are in a position where you can be safe.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is drop anything that is distracting you from feeling. And I understand it's very hard, but trust me, the more you learn to feel yourself, the more you heal yourself, and the faster it goes. Because you know that it's just one very bad spoon to swallow, and then when you swallow it, it's gonna feel better. It's just really like that. It's just like, okay, I need to lie down, start feeling the pain in my
Mm-hmm.
heart, and then it goes. And I want to say, if it's too hard for you, there's a lot of people like me sharing a lot of material on social media. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
go on my YouTube, you're gonna find a lot of videos where I'm helping you open your heart. There's a lot of hypnosis, and I'm not the only one, because I started this that way. I think we talked that about that during our prequel, is
Mm-hmm.
that when I was in Brazil in 2018, I was listening to podcasts and I was
Yeah.
listening to people and I was using that material. And it's because I felt so much transformation from all these people giving that free material on social media
Mhm.
that I decided to do it. I
Mhm.
do everything I'm doing, I'm sharing, it's because it worked for me. And there is a very simple thing. You're a human being. I'm a human being. Our bodies work the same way. The quantity might be different, but the basics of it, when there is light, you're gonna be awake. When there is
Mhm.
darkness, it's easier to fall asleep. These are
Mhm.
basic things. Water is needed for you to be alive, to be hydrated. These are basic things. It
Really?
works for everybody, and what we're doing in trauma healing is very basic thing. We didn't invent anything. The people who are doing the science of biohacking might make you believe they invented something, but the truth is, they're just created a new package for something that exists from thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly. It's going back to basics. It really
Yeah,
is. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant. So I think you've unlocked some of this as well. But tell me more about your work you do now about unlocking superhuman potential, achieving extraordinary outcomes through energy work.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we what so I just really want to reframe what is a
Mhm.
superhuman for me. I think a superhuman is really a human that comes back to its own nature, because in
Mhm.
cities we are so much bombarded with information and with toxic stuff
Really. Yeah.
that we're spending more time healing and
Mhm.
fighting this than really using our energy to something positive. So I do believe that being a superhuman is what every human is meant to be, but
Mhm.
we just went backwards somehow. And we have access within ourselves to so much more. We talk about DNA activation. We
Mhm.
have strands of DNA that are dormant, and by doing that work, by using energy and by using your consciousness, you can activate these.
Yeah.
And for example, you can open your third eye, which is gonna allow you to connect with energy and really feel the energy and sense things and understand that your creative power lies within yourself. And when you understand that manifesting thing, because a lot of people
Mhm.
use the word manifesting,
Yes.
we can say the word creation. I like the word manifesting, but
Mhm.
in the vibrational word manifesting, it comes from French, which is manifester, which is to show up. And then there is the word attraction, which is really magnetizing yourself to the thing that you
Mhm.
want. So manifesting is really more about visualizing. I want to manifest a red car. You can manifest it. But if you want to have it, you're more likely to attract it.
Mhm.
And so if you want to create that life where you're manifesting and attracting things, you need to work with your emotions and with your visualization, with your third eye, because your third eye is really the compass that's going to allow you to know where to go. The same way as I was guided to
Mhm.
India, is my third eye that was starting to be open, and you feel like, oh, this feels right. It feels good. I don't know why, but it feels good. It's very important
Mhm.
to understand that you're losing a lot of energy trying to manifest things to feel safe, feel better, feel loved. And all of that energy, if you stop spreading it out to, oh, I need to reach this objective, because when I will reach this objective, people will respect me. I will be
Yeah.
able to do this, that. When you stop spending your energy onto that, you start having so much more energy to do whatever really is gonna make you feel good.
Yeah.
The first part of my work is really
Mhm.
removing all of that pain and all of that
Mhm.
misbelief that these things gonna make you happy, and
Mhm.
just really understand that being happy is gonna happen when you decide. The same
Mhm.
way as healing is gonna happen when you decide. It's not because you have more money or you have more space that you will be able to heal. It's really when you decide to just put your attention and energy towards the thing that's going to really work. So that's the first part. And then when that is done, you can start cultivating that creative power that's within yourself, and you can start really understanding how it works and be more sensitive to energy. And when you become more sensitive to energy, you start feeling things more than thinking about things. So for a very simple example, in my work, in my daily life, I learn how to connect to the energy field of people.
Mm.
And I know what is the readiness to do things. So if I, for example, I'm going on a date with a woman, or I'm having a business meeting with a future client, I can sense their energy and like, oh, I know that if I'm trying something now, it's not gonna work because their energy is not receptive. There's not enough trust being built right now. And I'm not gonna put up my energy into that because I know it's not useful. Like this, I'm not spreading my energy and I'm not spending energy without having results. I'm just mindful of the energy. I'm reading the energy and I'm knowing what I can do at what moment. So there's a very huge power
Mm.
into understanding what really makes you feel good. And that really comes with knowing yourself, like how much of this and how much of that do I need? Do I really need to have a new pair of shoes to feel good? Or do I want to have a new pair of shoes so other people look at me and be like, oh, look at him. He has the last
Mm.
new branded pair of shoes, for example.
Mm.
Really starting to understand that, so you can really shift your energy to where it's needed. And when you can do that, you
Mm.
can use that energy to create things that are positive for you. And the more you do that, the more you start learning how to read energy.
Mm.
So in my work, there are very different phases onto how to become more fulfilled in your life, because
Mhm.
I do believe we all want to become successful. What we really want is to be fulfilled. And the
Absolutely.
difference of success in our society is success is really outward driven. Can I be recognized for having done this? Rather than fulfillment is just looking within yourself and saying, hey, what do I need to feel good? And when I will feel good, it doesn't matter how other people treat me, but I can be there for them. And so that is the main part of my job, is really helping people to be successful in a way that connects to what's gonna really make them feel good.
Absolutely love it. Absolutely love everything you're saying. So, you have given us many tools, daily steps, and tips. What would you say is your key takeaway?
My key takeaway, what I would say, is that anyone can get anywhere they want. I mean, there's a certain
Hmm.
extent to which you can go, but if you have a dream in your life, whatever age you have, starting going for it is so important.
Mm.
The reaching of it is not important. The idea of going some, what makes us feel good is the decision of doing something, achieving the things. When it's achieved, you have to do something else. The
Mm.
journey is the most important part, but even more important than the journey is the people you are doing the journey with.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So, where can the listeners find you online, Asha?
I really love
Hmm.
being connected with people. So you can find me on Facebook. I'm Asha Hope. So it's facebook.com dash Asha Coach.
Hmm.
I'm also on Instagram under the best of Asha. It's all in one word. On Facebook is the same. On YouTube, sorry, is the same. It's the best of Asha. On these three platforms, you will find content from me. On Facebook, I'm really more connected there because I have a Facebook group where I'm inviting entrepreneurs to have a more fulfilling life. And if you want to have a conversation with me directly, if you have any questions, just come on Facebook and let's start chatting. But be somehow obvious that you found me on this podcast, because there's a lot of people trying to take my attention for no reason, and I'm just very mindful of that. But if you come and say, hey Asha, I listened to you on the podcast, and I would like to have some advices, I will just gladly help you. If you want to dive directly into what I'm doing and it's like, okay, I want to have some healing right now, I feel like I need
Hmm.
that, just
Hmm.
go on my YouTube, the best of Asha, and you will find a lot of different hypnosis sessions there. There's also energy healing session. There's different kind of sessions, and they will bring you something.
And all your links will be in the show notes. So everyone that wants to connect with Asha, please do. Thank you for sharing your insightful wisdom and knowledge with us today and doing the work on yourself. By doing so, you have helped so many others make a difference. I really want to acknowledge you for that, Asha Hope.
Thank you, thank you. As I said, like my whole purpose here is to pass the flame on, the same way as I was listening to podcasts a few years back and they changed my life. I realized how much power there is into listening to people who did that and making it available for as much people. And I'm really grateful that we live in this time where it's accessible to so many people to be able to start a podcast. And I also want to recognize the effort that you're doing to put the voice of so many people out there and allowing them to share, because we also need a vessel. It's important to be
Mm,
able to share your voice, but when other people come and advocate for what you're saying, it's becoming more powerful. This is really the realization I had, when I thought I was crazy and I saw there were so many people doing the same thing. I was like, I'm not crazy. And that's what I really want. I want all the people who are suffering and that think that they're alone, and to just go online and see, hey, so many people decided to end the suffering. So I'm not crazy if I want to end my own suffering.
it's fantastic. So we are all about create the courage to be fearless podcast here. What is your definition of courage?
Well, I kind of mentioned it already,
Mm,
and but clearly for me, courage is going on your own path. It's like society is telling you to do this, people are telling you to do this, but you know deep down that something else is meant for you, something deeper, something more beautiful, and go for it. This is, courage is going against the storm and saying, on the other side of the storm there is something beautiful. Everybody's saying, no, look, we have some gray sky here, the storm is dangerous, and you're like, on the other side of the storm there's going to be a sunshine, and you're going through the storm. It might be taking 1 year, 2 year, and you still have that resilience saying like, I know that behind the storm I trust myself. I know. And that is courage, is trusting yourself beyond what people say it's reasonable.